You know, I'm sick of this experiment. I'm sick of this, hey, let's treat the criminals with kid gloves, pretend that they're innocent angels, pretend that they're just the victims of circumstances, and see what happens if we never prosecute them for anything, keep giving them slaps on the wrist, and act like everything is a-okay first class all the way. What we're going to talk about today is this video out of Chicago, which is one among 10 different robberies that were armed robberies that occurred during a 30-minute span. And by the way, there's actually an 11th crime in the mix that I'm going to point out to you, but it's just insane what is going on in the city of Chicago. And what makes matters worse is that the residents of Chicago in these areas, the worst afflicted areas, voted overwhelmingly to make it even worse, aka voting for Brandon Johnson, who's even softer on crime and thinks that these are just innocent angels in need of like midnight basketball or something in order to prevent them from committing all these robberies that they consistently commit.
We're talking about a whole bunch of stuff, but in particular, like our effort and our move to redirect and defund the amount of money that is spent in policing. I don't look at it as a slogan. It's an actual real political goal.
Good morning, Val and Terrell. Brandon Johnson is waking up as the mayor-elect of Chicago this morning.
Now, before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who signed up over my website, actualjusticewarrior.com/join, where you get access to my secret video page, which is early access to the videos that I upload on this channel. Thank you so much for your support.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
And I really appreciate everybody who's listening on Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform.
Good morning. At least one of these robberies was captured on video. 10 armed robberies within a 30-minute period on the northwest side. And Chicago police believe the same group of robbers was behind all of them. One of the robberies happened at about 7:40 Sunday morning on Dickens near Kildare Avenue.
So like I said in the open, this is the one robbery of the 10 that were caught on video. And I just want to point out that if you ever find yourself in this situation where somebody pulls up their car in front of you and then people jump out of the car, turn your wheel towards their vehicle and floor it. Hit the gas. Your car is your best defensive weapon in this scenario, because what ended up happening here was that the person in this van was subject, his life was in the hands of 4 violent criminals armed with pistols, ready to kill him at the drop of a hat. You need to take your life into your own hand, slam into this car, injure these people if you have to. Their lives, in my opinion, are completely forfeit when they threaten your life in a robbery, and you need to be able to defend yourself in this situation, because we've seen circumstance after circumstance where these instances happen, and guess what? Somebody slips on the trigger finger and then the victim ends up dead, and all they were trying to do was comply in order to avoid getting hurt. It's absolutely horrific. It's disgusting. These people need consequences, but you're not going to always win. And luckily he did win in this, that he didn't get killed by just complying. That's just not the way it works.
One of the robberies happened at about 7:40 Sunday morning on Dickens near Kildare Avenue. The organization Belmont Cragen United provided us with this video. Police say 4 robbers got out of a gray Hyundai Elantra.
So I just want to point out a few things. One, that is the extra crime, if you heard it right there, that was committed in this instance, which was the stealing of that Hyundai Elantra. If you guys remember, we did a video talking about the Kia boys, and I explained explicitly in that video that the glitch actually is not just a Kia glitch, it's also with Hyundai, a manufacturing defect that allows these cars to be stolen with ease. Now, of course, just like in Milwaukee, the city of Chicago is doing absolutely nothing for car thieves. They're banning the chasing of car thieves because they think, oh my god, you have a divine natural given right to steal cars that are manufactured in Korea. That is just what you're allowed to do. So these guys are in a stolen car, so that is the additional crime along with the 10 robberies that you need to look out for. And by the way, you notice that they have no care, and for those of you who are like, I don't want to damage my vehicle, for the car that they stole, because as you can see, it backs up and the door gets all jammed up in the front of the car anyway. So if you're worried about damaging your vehicle, remember, they stole their vehicle, so they don't care about that. So what you need to do is accelerate and get out of that situation. If I'm ever in a situation, and you could quote me on this, where somebody is trying to run up on me with the gun and I'm in my car, that person is eating pavement, period, point blank. That is how I'm getting out of that situation. every single time. My car is my best weapon in that scenario, and I am not afraid to use it.
Armed with semi-automatic handguns, they walked up to their victims and demanded their belongings.
Also, I really wanted to highlight this point because they say semi-automatic handguns, and most people who know guns know that most firearms are semi-automatic, but the reason I wanted to highlight this is because it actually might not be accurate that they were armed with semi-automatic handguns. Remember, switches, which are these little like $8 pieces of metal from the Chinese market, they may actually be plastic, which are used to make semi-automatic handguns, I forgot which specific type, into fully automatics, are prolific around the city of Chicago. So there is a good chance that these guys are actually wielding modified fully automatic handguns, not semi-automatic. But I do find it interesting that both news reports that I covered in the videos that I'm shooting today, which is the LA one and the Chicago one, both happen to use that specific phrase, semi-automatic, because they're trying to push that it's the guns, and it might not even be accurate in this case.
Police described the same circumstances in all of the cases. The crime spree started at 7:20 a.m. at North Avenue and Springfield. Police in their community alert say the suspects were 18 to 25 years old. They wore black hooded sweatshirts and black ski masks, and they held up victims who were standing on the sidewalk or in the process of parking their cars. After stealing the victims' belongings, the robbers got back into the Elantra and took off. The group also hit Pulaski and Wabunsea, 2 blocks from the North Avenue location. Some of the robberies happened just 2 minutes apart.
Look, I've talked about over and over again how crime has completely obliterated the city of Chicago. I made a video laughing at these pro-looting politicians that were absolutely shocked that stores like Walmart were closing. And by the way, other stores are doing modified business or closing down in that area. But just look at this. It's Sunday morning, 7:20 to 7:50, and these guys are committing all these robberies. So the people that they're robbing are people working, people that are actually normal, rational people that are not criminals and not thugs like themselves, and they're just doing it without being challenged, and it's supposed to be taken as perfectly normal. Any one of these instances could have resulted in the death of an innocent civilian, and we actually talked about a story of one of these robbery sprees just a little while ago on this channel. It might have been like 4 videos ago, where these guys were doing a robbery spree. The last person they encountered happened to be a cop coming home from work, and they murdered the cop for her troubles. They shot that woman in the face just because she had a police uniform, and they were scared that they startled the wrong person. So every single one of these instances as they occur increases the chance that somebody ends up getting killed. This idea that we just ignore completely people stealing Kias and Hyundais and say, oh, well, you know, that's just kids being kids. And honestly, don't they have a natural God-given constitutional right to break into your car and steal it? Is ridiculous and absurd. If they cracked down on this issue, if they actually arrested the car thieves, guess what? A lot of the car thieves are committing other crimes. It would have good downstream effects on the criminality in the city of Chicago, but that's just not something that they're interested in.
Here are all 10 places where the robberies happened. Again, the first one at 7:20 a.m. and the crime spree ended at 7:50 in neighborhoods including Hermosa, Logan Square, and Humboldt Park. Police report no injuries in these robberies.
They see that they've hit over 800 murders for the first time in 25 years, and they think, you know what? You know what the real issue is? You know what the real problem is? There was a woman in the city of New York. She was pregnant, 6 months, physician's assistant. She got off a 12-hour shift, and I believe that she argued improperly with 5 black youths that were trying to rob her. That is the real crime in this nation. That is what is worthy of national news. We're going to trot out Ben Crump and Rayshad Ritchie and all the other race hustlers to go talk about that, while ignoring the fact that Chicago is becoming ever more dangerous for young black men, and pretend like that's totally normal. No big deal, nothing to see here. Everybody look away. We gotta find a white woman arguing with a black person who isn't even in the wrong in that scenario and turn that into national news. So every time I do one of these videos where I talk about crime, I talk about the spike in crime and people fleeing the city and how it's leading to all these negative consequences, I get some people down in the comments who will say, oh, they voted for this, well, therefore they deserve it. And I've criticized this take multiple different times because a lot of times it's just an NPC right-wing take and it's not actually applicable to the situation that we're talking about. Typically, people aren't voting for the candidates that explicitly run soft on crime, that run on not prosecuting anybody. However, I need to make this 100% clear. The city of Chicago actually ousted soft on crime Mayor Lori Lightfoot. They had a choice between a real mayor who is actually going to deploy the cops in a potentially effective way and Brandon Johnson, who ran on defunding the police, denying crime, claiming that the biggest issues in the city of Chicago was evil white racism, look out for the evil white racists, and they voted overwhelmingly for Johnson. And this wasn't an instance where the wealthy white progressives voted for Brandon Johnson. This was an instance where the people in the most violent neighborhoods voted for him due to the fact that he ran a very racially charged political campaign. So this is not a situation like the city of New York, where the places that were most impacted by crime voted overwhelmingly for the guy who was running the toughest on crime. This is the exact opposite. The residents of the city of Chicago voted overwhelmingly for a guy who's going to not only carry the torch, but go beyond the level of Lori Lightfoot in his softness on criminality. This is also the same county that voted for Kimberly Fox not once, but after they saw the damage that this woman did, twice. And yeah, so in this instance, you could say, hey, look, a lot of these people voted for this. Now, that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that each and every one of these residents that were victimized by that criminality are somehow responsible for that. A lot of them didn't vote for it. It was a close election. A lot of them wanted a reversal in the city of Chicago. But obviously, democracy has voted in the criminal enablers in this instance in unambiguous campaigns where they ran on supporting those criminals. Look, I'm not one for nostalgia. I'm not one for looking back on the past and romanticizing it and pretending that everything used to be so much better, when in reality, most of the indicators of quality of life have gone up overall in this country. But there is something to the videos of old American cities that have completely collapsed into criminality and depravity. When you watch videos of old school Detroit and it's being described as the Paris of the Midwest, and you see the state that it's in now, it's absolutely shameful when you think about everything that Chicago has brought us, and not just the mafia or Al Capone or any of that, but the good things that the city of Chicago has brought us, and where it is right now, this den of criminality, this den of corruption, it's absolutely shameful. Cities like Chicago used to be the envy of the world. Sure, they had tough reputations here and there, but in reality, they were meccas of culture and exchange and intellect and ideas and businesses and all that. And to see all of these long-standing companies plot their escape from the city, to see the population of the city absolutely flee in terror, it's shameful and it's absurd, but that's the way things are going. People can't stand to live amongst this criminality, and it is incumbent upon these people to actually change their voting patterns, notice the decline in their city, rather than just accept the defeat and continually vote to double down on this. Soft on crime doesn't work. It's made Chicago worse. We need to stop pretending that the biggest issue is the police, when in fact it is the criminal. Now look, those are just my thoughts. Obviously, you can let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social medias. You can support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about an insane crime spree yet again in the city of Chicago. Till next time.